Recently, I was able to witness the fights of 3 great warriors. His powers were completely absurd. I had never seen anything like it.
What it do? It's your boy, Dragon Ball Art 92. And I'm back with another Kamehameha reaction video. Yeah. All right. Yes. And today we got a good one, you guys. We're going to be going over Geekdom 101s, addressing Dragon Ball Daima's canon confusion. But before we get to the content today, you guys, make sure you hit the like button to trigger YouTube algorithm so that way we can be seen by a bigger audience. Also, if you're new here, we welcome you. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Yes. And here at Dragon Ball Art 92, we do reaction videos. Dragon Ball everything reaction videos. Yes. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and click that bell notification so that way you can be updated whenever I drop a video. Now that we got all that good stuff out the way, you guys, actually, I've been down under the weather for the last few days. That's why I haven't dropped a video recently. But I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be back with you guys and get back to the Dragon Ball content. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to go ahead and get started with today's content today, you guys. All right. Let's go.
So Dragon Ball Daima ended on Friday, and a lot of people were very confused, understandably so, and very let down because the ending really seemed a lot more like a season finale instead of a series finale because there were a lot of plot threads that were sort of still left open and a lot of questions from the fandom. And like I said,
and that's very, very true, bro, because I was sitting here thinking, like, what are they really going to do with the whole Super Saiyan 4 idea? Because it contradicts Super so much that you cannot, it's kind of impossible to put them together. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what are we going to do with it? But if they make a season 2 of Dragon Ball Daima, they can collaborate or go deeper into the lore of it and try to find a way to make it fit together. That'll be quite interesting. Let's get back to the content.
Understandably so. But there's a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of copium going on. I'm seeing some people, and I'm going to go into this post here and explain what's really going on here. I'm seeing a lot of people claim that Daima is a different continuity to Dragon Ball Super. And that's something that I think is the reason why people are believing this is because of the fact that events happened in Daima, because Daima is right after the Majin Buu saga and Super is a few years after the Majin Buu saga. And remember, in the first episode of Super, there was that mistranslation about the 6 months thing. Super, the events of Battle of Gods take place 4 years after.
Okay, so Super takes place 6 years after the end of Buu, and Daima happens directly after Buu. Okay, which makes a lot of sense, but it's still a lot of stuff to tie in. What you telling me that Goku forgot how to do Super Saiyan 4 in 4 years time span? I don't think so, bro. You know what I mean? So it's like, what's really going on here? You know what I mean? So let's get back to it.
To the defeat of Kid Buu. So that would be about 3 years after Daima. Now, the questions that have come up time and time again is, where is Super Saiyan 4 in Dragon Ball Super? Why are the Supreme Kai and Kibito refused? And these are logical questions. This is not, I don't think that people are dumb in asking this. Now, if you've been following my channel, one of the things I've said for years, And people don't seem to understand it. At least the greater fandom doesn't. Many of you guys do, but the fandom outside of this channel, a lot of them don't. Is I say that people have a real big misunderstanding about canon. And I've constantly said multiple times that the Japanese that make Dragon Ball,
Canon, 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 canon. That's all I hear, bro. Like what kills me is that the creators of the show created the new show. So, and the movies and so on and so forth. So I don't see what the problem is. I don't even see why people are really arguing over it. I like Daima. You know, I'm happy that they gave it to us. And despite that, they do have some inconsistencies in the show. I get it. But I still enjoy what they're doing for us because honestly, you know, that was Toriyama's last piece. You know what I mean? So I think that people should just enjoy the show for what it is, man. But like I said, I do understand that there is inconsistencies and problems with the show, just like there were in Dragon Ball Z, and just like they were in Dragon Ball Super, and just like they were in Dragon Ball GT, even though this is the revamped version of GT. But let's get back to the content.
we're talking about Iyoku, Toei, Shueisha. They do not care about canon anywhere near as much as the West does. The idea of a canon is from the word canonical, which was used to legitimize which books of the Bible were inspired by God and which weren't. That's the origin of the word, and it's been used to kind of replace the word continuity. People want continuity in Dragon Ball, and I understand it, and I also want it, but the Japanese just don't care. Now, unfortunately, at least not as much when it comes to Dragon Ball. Unfortunately, though, this does lead to some questions that, again, people have logically asked. And
I got a question for y'all in the comment section. Like, is there any other anime that talk about canon? Like, I'm very, very, very interested to know. Because if Dragon Ball is the only series that they talk about canon, and I think that's kind of like some hater stuff, bro. Like, honestly, that's hater stuff, bro. Because why isn't every other anime treated the same way if they come out with movies or side stories or anything in that particular lane? You know, so it's just my opinion, man.
I want to get to this post here from Let Me Cook. Well, unfortunately, Let Me Cook did not cook here because he made an assumption that's pretty wrong. And I'm going to get to what I mean here. This is all about what Akio Yoku said about Dragon Ball Daima and its relation to the original series, like the original manga and Dragon Ball Z era, and Super. So he says the idea of Dragon Ball Daima came from Akio Iyoku, president of Capsule Corporation Tokyo. He's right about that. While he was working on DB Superhero, he wrote Superheroes, but he's talking about Superhero, the movie with Gohan, Beast, and Cell Max. At first, they didn't want Toriyama to be that involved in the series, but after presenting the idea to him, he was so excited that he worked on it on more than expected. This is something that we talked about on multiple streams here on the channel, that Toriyama, when he was brought in to work on the series, his imagination went wild, and he came up with all these vehicles and a lot of this lore that really was in many ways retconning stuff he had done in the past. And I have a whole video I'm working on about some of the retcons that modern Dragon Ball has given us that somewhat contradict the old stuff. So look forward to that.
And I think a lot of times when it comes to story writing, especially if you wrote a story a long time ago, you probably forget what you wrote in the past. And that's why the new storyline, if you're writing on the same type of story, might contradict the past storyline. You know, I mean, they've been writing Dragon Ball for years, so you got to give them some type of credit. So if they did retcon some of the stuff, it's because maybe they forgot. That's just my opinion.
Coming very soon. I haven't done it yet, but it's coming. So he goes on to say, Dragon Ball Daima is a continuity of the Buu saga, like any OAV would be a continuity to any Dragon Ball event. So this is already wrong. An OAV, he means OVA, an original video production.
Guys, let's get back to the content.
OVA. Dragon Ball Daima is a 20-episode anime miniseries. He writes it's a continuity of the Buu saga, like any OAV would be a continuity to any Dragon Ball event, and thus doesn't make them canon to the original series, even if Toriyama was involved in some of them. Well, here's the thing. You just wrote Dragon Ball Daima is a continuity of the Buu saga, but then you said that does not make it canon to the original series. This is why I talk about when I say that a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree with Geekdom. That don't make sense. If Daima is the continuity of the Buu saga, then that makes it canon because it's a part of the main storyline. I mean, come on, man. People got to be such. Let's get back to the.
People do not understand canon because people throw the word around, and one of the, without really getting what's going on, one of the issues that we've been seeing lately is that the people that like Daima more than Super have gone on a crusade saying that Daima's the real canon and that Super's no longer canon. And then the people that like the Super stuff are saying that Daima's a different canon. And this has been like a back and forth now for actually not even just this week, but it's been going on for a while.
Actually, what he talking about, I seen some posts on Reddit, and it had like Dragon Ball Z at the top, right? And then it split into 3 different timelines or whatever. And on one side it had GT, one side had Super, and then one part had Daima, and it was trying to connect everything. But like I said, people kind of doing a little extreme when it comes to this type of stuff, man, instead of enjoying the content. But I mean, I love the fandom, man. I love Dragon Ball. I love the Dragon Ball community, you know, and that's why we have the opportunity to talk about stuff like this, you know what I mean? But some stuff just be like one of the other content creators I listen to say, mind rot, bro. Like, let's get back to it.
One thing I notice about Dragon Ball fans is they oftentimes make up their own canon or what they believe is canon. And a lot of times it's biased. It's based on what they like. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why people oftentimes will jump and say that GT's not canon because they don't like it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only reason, right? Because Dragon Ball GT was referred to by Toriyama as a grand side story. That's a fact. However, Akira Toriyama has never used the word canon in any interview. I've had a check for $2,000 for the past 10 years for somebody to find a single interview, legitimate interview, where Toriyama has used the word canon.
If Toriyama himself didn't use canon, then what the are we doing? That don't even make sense. Why are we using canon if the creator of the storyline didn't use canon? Does that really make sense to you guys? I mean, come on, man. Crazy, man.
He hasn't. He never has. But there's a lot of misinformation out there. Now, he goes on to say Dragon Ball Daima is a non-canon or alternate sequel to Dragon Ball and therefore has no direct connections to Dragon Ball Super. Well, the issue with that is there's 2 big issues with that. Number one, in the first episode when they show Bardock, it's not the Bardock from the manga or from Z. It's the Dragon Ball minus Dragon Ball Super Broly Bardock with the armor, not the one with the headband. And number 2, they also show the Kais when they have the flashback of Raimus, and it's the same Kais from Super that Toyotaro and Toriyama designed together.
That's fast.
Now, if we actually go into the interview, this dude totally misconstrued the interview. Now, I don't know, let me cook. I want everybody to know, please do not send hate to him or anything like that. I don't know the guy, but he's objectively wrong. If we look at the interview,
and please, guys, we shouldn't do that to each other, especially when we come to having Dragon Ball conversations, because all it is just a Dragon Ball conversation. If somebody gets something wrong, it's okay. It's okay to correct people too, but don't Don't disrespect people, man, over Dragon Ball. That just don't make sense, you guys.
Let's talk about the interview because this is really why I made this video. He says, in the first place, why did a new TV anime series start? Ioku says, this is from a radio interview. He says, it was about 6 years ago, but when I was making Dragon Ball Super Superhero, I started talking about wanting to make a new series that was different from the movie. Like different as in it's not a movie, it's an anime series. I was making a movie and I was thinking of having the teacher make it for a while. The teacher's Toriyama because they call him Toriyama Sensei. Not to burden the teacher, but for him to watch it. What do you think? I threw it. As I progressed, the teacher was very enthusiastic. And like I said, guys, the teacher is just a different translation from Toriyama Sensei. Different translators in the fandom translate things differently. He goes on to say it was different from the original plan, but after consulting with the teacher, we ended up making the most of it. So he's basically saying that he didn't want to burden Toriyama because Toriyama had worked on Superhero and he did not want to overstep his boundaries and have Toriyama now work on an anime. You understand what I'm saying? That's what he's saying here, man. I mean, that's all he's saying. And that's respect. Because, Toriyama's been pretty much semi-retired since like the 90s.
The only thing this interview is showing is the respect that the people that was working under Toriyama have for him. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really saying anything specific about any of the stuff, but saying that, okay, they was making a movie and he pitched the idea to Toriyama. You know, I mean, hey, it's not too much for an interview, especially for the guy to interpret that really wrong like that. But let's get back to it.
90s. He's helped with Dragon Ball Super and he's written some one-shots, but the days of Toriyama writing a weekly manga like he did back in the day are done, right? He goes on to say, Mr. Toriyama said, what kind of place is the great demon world? Ideas such as the new characters were born and then the worldview of Daima was solidified. This is something I talked about recently on stream, that when Akio wanted to bring back Super Saiyan 4 because the analytics showed how popular it was, they couldn't do the same Super Saiyan 4 that they did in GT with the blue waves and golden great ape, and they couldn't do the space journey, right? So they had to change it up a little bit. And instead, that's when Toriyama decided, let's go to the demon realm. It's a place that's been talked about in the original manga, but not explored. Moving on. He goes on to say, it was the first time I made a series from scratch like this. And I think because when Dragon Ball Super began, Akio wasn't that involved at that time, not at the beginning of it. And I think it was interesting from the teacher's point of view. It takes longer than the movie. And I spent time on the story while playing catch ball many times. In fact, the production of the animation had begun before the entire story was completed. It was needing my heart that much. That's why there may be a feeling of excitement like a weekly manga. So in this entire interview, there's no mention of anything like, well, Dragon Ball Super, this and that. The only mention of Super is that they were working on Superhero at the same time. However, if we look at the other translations of the interview, like the full translations, that actually explains what's going on. So this is the key part right here. Akio Ioku said himself, Daima takes place after the Majin Buu saga, but how exactly does it fit into the broader Dragon Ball timeline? Toriyama personally wrote the story, and it's directly connected to the Majin Buu saga, Ioku confirmed. Now, this is something that's obvious because...
So there you have it. Daima is canon. They're basically telling you that it came right after the Majin Buu saga. So that means Super Saiyan 4 is canon. Yes, it is. So I believe that all the argument, fights, and stuff can now be over because, we get it from the horse's mouth. You know what I mean? Shout out to Geekdom 101 for giving us the update and the information there. I'm going to stop the video right there. If you guys want to finish the video, make sure you go to Geekdom 101's channel and check him out over there, man. He does a great job with the Dragon Ball content, And Yeah, but overall, to me, Dragon Ball Daima was good. I end up finally watching the last episode. It was actually pretty decent, man. It was the animation and everything was pretty nice. I just didn't like the way it ended because it wasn't an ending. It was like a continuation of something. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't finish something with the story right there just didn't work out well in my eyes. So I liked it, Daima. The only thing I would criticize is the way that they ended it and how they drew Goku Super Saiyan 4's arms, his hands and stuff. They were too big in my opinion. But I think they were going with the whole monkey type of look. So I guess it does fit. But that's the end of the video today, you guys. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more Dragon Ball content. Thank you guys for coming by, checking me out today. And make sure that you believe in yourself, man, because ain't nobody else go do it, man. Dragon Ball Art 92, man. I'm out.
Recently, I was able to witness the fights of 3 great warriors. His powers were completely absurd. I had never seen anything like it.